Personally, I think the lyrics are a bit too harsh.
I ain't no nigga.
All of them. About women is
I got kids. I don't want to listen to that.
flatline.
Why do I call myself a nigga, you ask me? Well, it's because wanna blast me. They run me out of my neighborhood.
Hello, my name is David Pilgrim, and this is Expect Diversity. Today we'll be discussing one of the most controversial words in American popular culture, the so-called N-word. Today's guests are Philip Middleton, Jamar Haride, and Tommy Daniels. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'd like to start by asking you, when you hear that word, this so-called N-word, what do you think? And I'll start with you, Dr. Middleton.
Well, the word, 37 years ago, I worked at Fort Bragg Stockade, and one of the prisoners there, I was a stockade guard. One of the prisoners said to me, "This word is out. We don't need to use it." And today, 37 years on, the word is still a part of our language. I chart its trajectory. I still think it carries with it a huge amount of venom wherever and whenever it is spoken.
Okay. Jamar, what do you think when you hear the word?
When I hear the word from my peers, it's a different understanding from when I hear the word. See, because when I look at my peers, I look at what society has given us as our own coping mechanism to try to stay at bay and at peace when we actually do get offended by the word. So it's two different meanings for me. It's two different understandings.
Okay, when you say your peers, who do you mean?
My immediate peers, my individuals in my age group, individuals around the hip-hop community, R&B, anything to do with my American culture, my being African-American.
Okay, but are you meaning more specifically when you hear it from African-American peers, or are you including white peers in that?
I'm also including white peers in that because I too have had white peers that I have called and saying every shape of definition of what we are. You are that and you are my N-word. So, yes.
Okay, Tommy, what do you think when you hear the word?
Well, it's funny because at first, being from Detroit, you hear it a lot, and I use it with my friends and stuff. But as I became a Fair State student, and me and my friends would say it around white students, I would cringe. Like, it was almost like embarrassing that that we'll call ourselves the N-word, and it's like I didn't think it was appropriate anymore for us to call each other that word. So, at first I was, I thought it was a good thing, hey, but I think that a word like that should just be, taken out of our vocabulary, period. It shouldn't be, say, hey, we can use this, but you can't.
Now, you were hosting, or you were talking to me about hosting an event to abolish the N-word?
Well, it's not to abolish the N-word. What it's more like is we're just having a discussion, an open discussion, whether or not should it be abolished. So we'll let students come and decide if it should be abolished. And we're having an event, having Mike Wade come out and speak at that event, and you also and a couple other people to come and speak about that word.
Okay. Now, I try to be plain spoken, and so I'll try to cut to the chase on some issues.
Okay.
Jamar mentioned that he uses the word, or has used the word. Tommy, you mentioned that you've used the word,
Yeah.
and in terms of full disclosure, I'll tell you, certainly the early part of my life, probably when I was, you guys, your ages, I used it and used it a lot. It was a part of the way we referred to each other. Have you used the word?
I have.
Okay.
And I have had it hurled at me as well. I'm from Georgia, so and I'm older, so I've heard it perhaps more than anybody else on this panel.
Well, I don't know. I'm from Alabama, so we don't want to compare.
God bless you.
We don't want to compare that, but but when you used it early in your life, do you think you were using it in the same way young people use it today?
I don't know. I used it exclusively with my chums, and I grew up in a segregated city in the Deep South, and so I didn't have that much interaction, period, with white people. So and when I did interact with them, it was on a different plane. They were either like really great athletes, or sometimes they would come to our school to teach a certain course or so, but they would come and then leave. So my primary interaction was with black folk at the time. Okay, so So it was, and I used it always with my chums. The people
And what
I was
did you
really
mean
friends
when you used it?
It was like me saying buddy or man or partner or something like that. Now, the other side of the coin is that you don't get along with everybody all the time. And so there were times when I hurled it out at people and it was meant to be a menacing threat because you use a word when you have to use it. And the environment shapes the word. It just so happens that my environment at the time was one that was really restricted. Georgia. Okay.
I get that. And Jamar, when you hear him saying he used it with his chums, and I haven't heard that in a long time. Thank you for taking us back to the 30s with that. But when
You're most welcome, Dr.
thank
Pilgrim.
you. When you hear him talking about using it with friends, is that what you were saying earlier?
Yes, as I was saying, you know, coming from Lower East Side Detroit, growing up, that's all you hear and that's all you see is that word. But growing up, I guess in the Tupac era, you know, rest in peace, he said, never ignorant get goals accomplished, NIGGA. And once I got that acronym, it totally changed my insight of it. Like, yeah, I am. You call me that, I'm definitely never ignorant not get goals accomplished. That's definitely what I do. So however you take it, I'll be that. As I look in the Webster Dictionary and see the definition of it, it says that the ignorance, but it put a projection on the color of the ignorance. But at the same time, I even furthered my research and said, why is black always referenced to as bad? Even when you look at death, they put black on death. They put they call the raven a crow, but in all biblical terms, the raven was the blackbird that fed the prophet. So I'm just, you know, understanding why everything that's associated with the color black is put bad.
Okay, but you wouldn't be sitting here suggesting that that word didn't have a bad origin, would you?
The origin, yes, being the imprint of that society then. That's why I say when we talk to ourselves in a culture of youngsters, we don't look at it, but we look at the origin and respect our past and understand our present. You know, the abolishing the word and taking out the origin, yes, it has the definite bad meaning, but if more individuals had the understanding that never ignorant get goals accomplished, I think more individuals would say, you know what, yeah, okay, I can accept that more than it's just accepting it.
Okay, well, I'm fighting the urge to argue with you on a couple things. The first thing I think is there's a generational thing going maybe.
Definitely.
I think African Americans my age don't separate that word from the Jim Crow period. So when we see dogs and we see power hoses, those weren't water hoses, those were power hoses that would strip the bark off of trees. When we see 4 little girls killed in Birmingham, when we see just horrific things as African Americans tried to undermine Jim Crow, and we hear that word, we make that connection. And what I hear when I talk to young people is they don't make that connection.
No.
Okay. Now I don't know why they don't make that connection. That's what I'm trying to understand. Is it because the African Americans, my generation, did a real bad job of telling those stories? Or is it because the word has evolved and actually has different meanings today?
I think it's definitely, I don't take nothing from I respect my roots and all my ancestors, even with you all on the panel with you and taking classes with you and just understanding the knowledge that you are possessing in regards to it. I don't think that you are, not you personally, but anyone has done a bad job of explaining or establishing the origin of the species, but at the same time, it has definitely evolved. It has evolved into something that it can't be taken out because it's enrooted inside of the system. You know what I'm saying?
I get that part.
It's embedded.
I get that.
It's like,
but that doesn't make it good though, because it's embedded.
Not fundamentally good. Like I said, I believe that the laugh and the joke off with the peers has been definitely used as a coping or a teething calming mechanism to even deal with it, because the first thing you do, I did when I first was encountered with racism and got called a nigga to my face, and I had to step back and say, whoa, you just called me what?